The last resort. The holographic display cast an eerie red glow across Admiral Sarah Chen's face as she studied the latest casualty reports. Another colony lost. 3 million more lives snuffed out by the Concordiate's relentless advance. She closed her eyes, letting the weight of command settle heavily on her shoulders. "They've pushed us back to Titan," Colonel Reese reported, his weathered face appearing on a secondary display. "The outer defense grid is holding. But their numbers." He didn't need to finish the sentence. The war room deep beneath the Olympus base on Mars had become humanity's last command center. What remained of Earth's leadership had gathered here after the Concordiate's first strike reduced most of Earth's surface to radioactive glass. The alien empire had appeared 18 months ago, demanding humanity's immediate surrender and integration into their perfect order. Their response to humanity's refusal had been swift and brutal. "Show me Saturn again," Chen ordered, and the central hologram shifted to display the gas giant's magnificent rings. She'd been studying this view for weeks now, ever since Dr. Kira Patel had first proposed her outrageous plan. Every time Chen looked at it, the idea seemed simultaneously more impossible and more inevitable. Dr. Patel stepped forward, her dark eyes bright with the same intensity that had earned her a reputation as either a genius or a madwoman, depending on who you asked. "The simulations are complete, Admiral. Project Prometheus isn't just possible, it's our only chance." The room fell silent. Project Prometheus was perhaps the most ambitious engineering project ever conceived. The transformation of Saturn itself into a defensive platform that would dwarf anything the Concordiate had ever encountered. Not just a space station or a weapons platform, but the conversion of an entire planet into humanity's shield and sword. "Walk us through it again, Doctor," Chen said, her voice steady despite the desperation of their situation. "Every detail." Patel nodded and expanded the hologram, highlighting Saturn's atmosphere. The Concordiate's weakness has always been their rigid thinking. They expect us to fight conventionally, ships against ships, weapons against weapons. They never imagined we'd think on this scale. The hologram shifted, showing layers of theoretical construction. Saturn's composition is perfect for what we need. The metallic hydrogen layer can be converted into a power source that would make our current fusion reactors look like chemical batteries. The rings provide raw materials, and the electromagnetic field can be amplified into a shield that could withstand anything short of a supernova. "The resources required," General Santos began, but Patel cut him off. "We've already lost Earth. Mars will follow. We're not trying to save our infrastructure anymore. We're trying to save our species. Every factory, every ship, every scrap of technology we have left needs to be committed to this project." Chen studied the faces around the room. They'd all aged decades in the past year and a half. "The civilian cost?" she asked, though she already knew the answer. "Total," Patel replied quietly. "Every surviving human will need to be evacuated to deep shelters on Mars and the outer moons. We'll need their life support systems, their power plants, everything. We strip it all down and rebuild it into something they'll never expect." The room erupted in argument, but Chen raised her hand for silence. On her personal display, another report flashed. The Concordiate had just breached the defenses around Europa. Their methodical advance continued. "How long?" she asked. 6 months to achieve basic functionality. 9 for full implementation. If we start now, they'll see us doing it, Santos warned. "They'll strike before we're ready." "No," Patel said, allowing herself a small smile. "That's the beauty of it. We'll use their own arrogance against them. They think they've already won. Their sensors will detect activity, but they'll assume we're just fortifying Saturn's moons. They've never imagined a species could harness an entire planet. Their victory is so certain in their minds that they're taking their time, being methodical. That's our window." Chen stood, her decision made. She'd sworn an oath to protect humanity, and right now, that meant taking an impossible gamble. "Send the orders," she commanded. "All remaining ships are to begin evacuating civilians to the designated shelters. Every engineer, every scientist, every worker we have left is now assigned to Project Prometheus. We have 9 months to turn mythology into reality." As the orders went out, Chen turned back to the hologram of Saturn. Humanity had always dreamed of reaching for the stars. Now they would reach out and grasp one of the greatest planets in their solar system, turning it into something that would shake the foundations of galactic civilization. The Concordiat thought they were dealing with a primitive species making its last stand. They were about to learn that humanity's greatest achievements had always come when their backs were against the wall. In the depths of space, Saturn continued its eternal dance around the sun, unaware that it was about to become the centerpiece of humanity's most desperate gambit. The game was about to change, and the galaxy would never be the same. Engineering the impossible. The first antimatter explosion lit up Saturn's rings like a second sun. Dr. Kira Patel watched from the observation deck of the hastily constructed command station on Enceladus as another section of the planet's famous rings disintegrated into a cloud of superheated plasma. Each detonation represented another step in humanity's greatest engineering project, and the destruction of one of the solar system's most beautiful natural features. Rain Sector 12 cleared for harvesting. A tired voice reported over the comm. "Mining drones deploying now." Patel checked her augmented display as swarms of automated harvesters moved in to collect the atomized material. They'd stripped 3 of Jupiter's moons and most of the asteroid belt already. Saturn's rings were their last major source of raw materials. The casual destruction of astronomical wonders had become routine. Necessity had a way of overwhelming sentimentality. Dr. Patel. Admiral Chen's hologram appeared beside her. "The Concordiat fleet has changed course. They're moving toward Neptune." "Right on schedule," Patel nodded. "Their predictability is our greatest asset. They'll systematically clear the outer system before making their final push, just like they've done in every other star system they've conquered. That gives us 7 weeks before they reach Saturn. Will we be ready?" Patel turned to face the hologram fully. "Phase 1 is nearly complete. The magnetic field amplifiers are operational, and the atmospheric processors are performing beyond expectations. The real question is whether the quantum core will stabilize in time." The quantum core was the heart of Project Prometheus, a massive engineering feat that would turn Saturn's metallic hydrogen layer into the largest power source ever created by human hands. Without it, all their other preparations would be meaningless. "Show me," Chen commanded. The observation deck's windows transformed into a massive display, showing a cross-section of Saturn's interior. Massive structures were taking shape within the planet's atmosphere, vast networks of exotic materials designed to channel and control forces that humanity had barely understood 18 months ago. "We've had 3 containment failures in the past week," Patel explained, highlighting a particularly troublesome section. "The pressure at those depths. We're dealing with physics that exists only in theory. Every success teaches us something new, but every failure costs us time we don't have." "And lives," Chen added quietly. Patel nodded grimly. They'd lost over 2,000 engineers and technicians already. The casualty rates among the construction crews were even higher. Every person working on Project Prometheus knew the risks, but understanding danger wasn't the same as being immune to it. "Speaking of lives," Chen continued, "I need your assessment of the civilian situation." Patel's jaw tightened. The evacuation of every remaining human settlement to make room for the project's resource needs had been brutal. Millions were now crammed into hastily expanded shelters on Mars and the surviving moons, living on minimal life support, while every spare watt of power and gram of material went to Project Prometheus. "We've lost another environmental system in Shelter Complex 7, she reported. "We're moving survivors to other facilities, but we're well past maximum safe capacity everywhere. If we divert more resources to life support." "We can't," Chen interrupted. "You know that. How long can they hold out?" 3 months. Maybe 4 if we implement stricter rationing. After that, Patel let the sentence hang. They both knew what would happen if Project Prometheus failed. The Concordia wouldn't need to fire a shot. Humanity would suffocate in its own shelters. A new alert flashed across Patel's display. The test sequence for Ring 6 is starting. You'll want to see this. The view shifted to show another section of Saturn's atmosphere. Massive structures that had been under construction for months were about to be activated for the first time. If they worked, they would prove that the project's most ambitious component was possible. Initiating power transfer, a technician's voice announced. Quantum core segment responding. Field generators online. Energy began to flow through the constructed lattices, creating patterns of light that rippled across thousands of kilometers. The structures were designed to turn Saturn's entire bulk into a weapon, not just a platform for conventional arms, but a way to weaponize the fundamental forces of nature itself. Reading spatial distortion, another voice reported. 5%, 10%, holding steady. Patel held her breath. They'd failed at this stage 3 times before, each failure costing weeks of work and irreplaceable resources. This time, the readings continued to climb. 20%, 30%, field coherence maintaining. Chen's hologram leaned forward, tension visible even in the projected image. Is it? Quiet, Patel whispered. This was the crucial moment. 50%, 60%, spatial distortion reaching critical threshold. The vast structure began to glow with a light that shouldn't have been possible in the vacuum of space. Energy readings spiked across every sensor, and for a moment, a small section of Saturn's atmosphere simply ceased to exist, replaced by a void that defied physics itself. Test successful, the technician announced, professional calm barely masking their excitement. Ring 6 is operational. Patel allowed herself a moment of pure relief before turning back to Chen's hologram. We did it. The space warping technology works. Once we replicate this across the full structure, we'll be able to turn Saturn's entire mass into a weapon. Chen finished. One capable of tearing apart Concordia ships by manipulating the fabric of space itself. More than that, Patel said, her eyes bright with fierce pride. We'll be able to move Saturn, the whole planet. They'll never expect it because it should be impossible, and that's exactly why it's going to work. New alerts began flashing. More tests to run, more problems to solve, more impossible tasks to accomplish. But for the first time since Project Prometheus began, Patel felt certain they would succeed. Humanity had always been at its best when pushing the boundaries of what was possible. The Concordia thought they were being methodical, thorough in their conquest. They didn't realize they were giving humanity exactly what it needed. Time to turn desperation into innovation, fear into determination, and a gas giant into the most powerful weapon in the galaxy. Saturn's rings continued to dissolve, transformed piece by piece into humanity's last hope. In 7 weeks, the Concordia would discover just how dangerous a cornered species could be. The Empire strikes. High Admiral Kextel of the Concordia Empire stood on the command deck of the dreadnought Inevitable Victory, his 4 eyes fixed on the tactical display. Saturn loomed before them, its rings noticeably diminished from the Imperial records. Human activity swarmed around the gas giant like insects around a luminous fruit. Pathetic, he chittered to his command staff. They stripped their own system, bare to build defenses around a planet they cannot hope to hold. His secondary arms gestured dismissively. Signal the fleet, standard extinction protocols. On the other side of the system, Dr. Kira Patel watched the Concordia fleet's approach through Saturn's newly activated sensor network. The alien armada was breathtaking in its scale, over 3,000 capital ships, each one capable of reducing a continent to ash. They're deploying in attack formation. Admiral Chen reported from the hardened command center deep within Enceladus. Exactly as predicted. Their tactical algorithms haven't changed in 10,000 years of conquest. All construction crews have been evacuated, Patel confirmed. checking the final status reports. Quantum core is at full power. Ring network is stable. We're as ready as we'll ever be. Then it's time. Chen's voice carried across all channels. Initiate Project Prometheus. Full activation sequence. Deep within Saturn's atmosphere, the quantum core, a massive structure larger than Earth itself, began to pulse with energy. The specialized rings they'd constructed throughout the planet's volume came alive, creating cascading waves of gravimetric distortion. Saturn's entire mass began to resonate with power that defied conventional physics. On the inevitable victory, sensor officers began screaming alerts. High Admiral, energy readings from the target planet. They're beyond anything in our database. Kextel's spine ridges flared with irritation. Impossible. These primitives barely managed interplanetary flight before we arrived. Their technology can't. He never finished the sentence. Saturn's atmosphere suddenly rippled like water, and a beam of concentrated spatial distortion lanced out from the planet's southern pole. It struck a cruiser at the edge of the Concordia formation, and the massive warship simply ceased to exist, not destroyed, but erased from space itself. By the first egg, Kextel whispered. Then he snapped back to command mode. All ships, open fire, full barrage, destroy whatever weapon they've constructed. The Concordiate fleet responded with apocalyptic fury. Energy beams and antimatter torpedoes streaked across space in numbers sufficient to shatter a small moon. They struck Saturn's new defensive field and vanished into rippling distortions of space-time. Their weapons are having no effect, Paddle reported, her voice tense with concentration as she monitored the quantum core's stability. The spatial warping field is holding. Power levels are within acceptable parameters. Begin Phase 2, Chen ordered. Saturn's ring system, what remained of it, suddenly erupted with activity. Thousands of automated defense platforms, concealed within the debris, powered up simultaneously. Each one carried weapons reverse-engineered from studying Concordia technology, improved by human innovation, and powered by the quantum core's nearly limitless energy. The Concordiate fleet found itself caught in a crossfire of conventional and spatial warping weapons. Ships began disappearing by the dozen as precisely targeted strikes exploited weaknesses in their formation. Impossible. Kextel raged as another battle group vanished from his tactical display. Reconfigure to defense pattern Sigma. Call in the reserve fleet. But there was nowhere to retreat to. Saturn's quantum core reached full power, and the impossible happened. The gas giant began to move. Not its normal orbital motion, but a deliberate acceleration that defied every law of celestial mechanics. The entire planet, transformed into humanity's greatest weapon, was pursuing the Concordiate fleet. Multiple spatial distortions detected, a sensor officer reported, their voice quavering. They're using the planet's mass to create gravitational lenses. Our ships can't jump to hyperspace. On Enceladus, Paddle watched the battle through multiple displays, coordinating with the quantum core's control systems. The trap is set, she reported. Their entire fleet is within the gravity well. They can't escape. Chen's voice was cold. Execute final attack pattern. Saturn's atmosphere began to pulse with energy waves that rippled outward like the surface of a pond. Each wave carried precisely calculated spatial distortions that tore through Concordia ships like tissue paper. The aliens' mighty fleet, terror of 1,000 star systems, was being systematically erased from existence by weapons that operated on principles they couldn't even comprehend. High Admiral Kextel watched his empire's greatest armada die around him. How? He demanded of the uncaring void. How could they have done this? The answer came in a transmission that cut through all Concordiate frequencies. Admiral Chen's voice, translated into perfect imperial standard. You thought you were dealing with primitives. You thought your technology and your empire made you invincible. You never asked yourselves what those primitives might do when pushed to the edge of extinction. You never wondered what happens when you corner a species known for turning its wildest dreams into reality. A final wave of spatial distortion erupted from Saturn's northern pole, sweeping through the remnants of the Concordiate fleet. Ships vanished by the hundreds, their matter scattered across dimensions humans had learned to manipulate out of desperate necessity. The inevitable victory was one of the last ships to go. High Admiral Kextol's final sight was Saturn's massive form, transformed by human ingenuity into something that should never have been possible, advancing through space like an avenging god. As the battle ended, Patil slumped in her chair, exhausted but triumphant. Status report. Concordiate fleet has been neutralized, Chen confirmed. 97% of their ships confirmed destroyed. The rest have fled the system. The quantum core. Stable. All systems performing within expected parameters. Project Prometheus was a complete success. Patil looked at the sensor displays showing the aftermath of the battle. Humanity had done more than survive. They had turned the impossible into reality and reshaped the very nature of warfare in the process. Send word to the shelters, Chen ordered. Tell them it worked. We're going to survive. Saturn hung in space, its transformed bulk glowing with power that defied conventional physics. It was no longer just a planet. It was humanity's shield, sword, and declaration to the galaxy. Underestimate us at your peril. Turning point. The Grand Council chamber of the Concordiate Empire had never been so quiet. Representatives from 1,000 conquered species sat in stunned silence as they watched the battle footage for the 100th time. The mighty Imperial fleet, pride of the galaxy's oldest civilization, being systematically destroyed by weapons that shouldn't have been possible. Supreme Counselor Vaxlith, their most ancient leader, struggled to maintain composure as his ceremonial robes shifted colors with his distress. How many ships lost? 2,817 capital vessels, the military attaché reported, including 3/4 of our most advanced dreadnoughts. High Admiral Kextol's final transmission indicated the humans had somehow weaponized the gas giant Saturn itself. In the observation room aboard Enceladus Station, Dr. Kira Patel studied a different set of numbers. Power consumption is holding steady, she reported to Admiral Chen. The quantum core has actually become more stable since the battle. It's like Saturn itself is adapting to its new purpose. Chen nodded, her attention split between multiple tactical displays. The transformed planet had taken up a defensive position, ready to respond to any further Concordiate aggression. But the expected counterattack hadn't come. They're still trying to understand what we did, Chen said. Their entire strategic doctrine is based on overwhelming force and technological superiority. We didn't just defeat them. We showed them their assumptions about the nature of warfare were wrong. We're getting signals, Communications Officer Torres announced. Thousands of them, from all over the galaxy. News of the battle is spreading. Other species want to talk. Of course they do, Chen smiled grimly. We just proved the Concordiate isn't invincible. Every species they've conquered or threatened is wondering what this means for them. Back in the Grand Council chamber, the debate had turned heated. We must launch an immediate counteroffensive, demanded General Yexmore, his warrior caste markings glowing with anger. The humans cannot be allowed to keep such a weapon. With what ships? Countered Trade Minister Zinra. They destroyed more of our fleet in one battle than we've lost in the last 1,000 years combined. And now every subjugated species in the Empire knows it. Reports were already coming in from the outer territories. Rebellions had broken out on 17 worlds. The Arcturus sector was declaring independence. The Proxima colonies were demanding immediate autonomy. Supreme Counselor Vaxlith raised all 4 hands for silence. What do the humans want? A hologram appeared in the center of the chamber. Admiral Sarah Chen, her simple uniform a stark contrast to the ornate regalia of the Concordiate leadership. We want what we've always wanted, Chen stated calmly. The right to exist free from imperial control. The right to develop our own destiny. But now we want something else as well. The council chamber tensed as Chen continued. We want reform. The Concordiate's era of unlimited expansion and domination is over. We're prepared to use Project Prometheus to enforce a new balance of power in the galaxy. You dare threaten us? General Yexmore sputtered. No, Chen replied. We're offering you a choice. Continue your policy of conquest and face more losses like the ones you just suffered, or join us in creating a new galactic order, one based on cooperation rather than subjugation. On Enceladus, Paddle watched the transmission with mixed emotions. They'll never agree, she said quietly. Their entire civilization is built on the idea of their own superiority. They don't have to agree, Chen responded after ending the transmission. They just have to understand that continuing their old policies will lead to their destruction. Fear can be a powerful motivator for change. New reports were flooding in. The Concordiate's grip on the galaxy was unraveling faster than anyone had predicted. Species that had been conquered centuries ago were rising up, inspired by humanity's victory. The balance of power was shifting by the hour. We're getting more transmissions, Torres reported. The Arcturus Federation wants to establish diplomatic relations. The Proxima Collective is requesting technical advisors. Even some of the Concordiate's own colony worlds are reaching out. And what about our people? Platil asked, turning to face Chen. When can they leave the shelters? Soon, Chen promised. The engineering teams are already converting some of the Project Prometheus infrastructure into habitation space. Within a month, we can start moving people back to the outer colonies. Within a year, we might even be able to begin the process of reclaiming Earth. Through the observation window, Saturn glowed with its new power, its transformed bulk a testament to human ingenuity and determination. But it was no longer just a weapon. It was becoming a symbol to oppressed species across the galaxy. A reminder that even the most powerful empire could be challenged by those they considered inferior. We've got more diplomatic requests coming in, Torres announced. They're going to need somewhere neutral to meet. Chen smiled. Tell them we'll be happy to host the first galactic conference here at Enceladus Station. Let them see up close what humanity is capable of. It might help them make the right decisions about the future. Humanity had wanted its place among the stars. Instead, they had become the catalyst for a galactic revolution, all because they had dared to dream bigger than anyone thought possible. The age of the Concordiate was ending. What would replace it remained to be seen, but humanity would help shape that future. Saturn's transformed bulk cast its light across the solar system, a beacon of hope for some, a warning to others, and a testament to what determination and ingenuity could achieve when pushed to their limits. A new dawn. 1 year after the Battle of Saturn, the observation deck of Enceladus Station was crowded with representatives from across the galaxy. Dr. Kira Puddle stood at the window, watching as ships from 24 species maneuvered carefully around Saturn's transformed bulk. The planet's quantum core pulsed with a steady rhythm, its power now being used to rebuild rather than destroy. The Arcturus delegation has arrived, Admiral Chen announced, joining her at the window. That makes 27 independent systems represented at the first Galactic Concordat. Not bad for a primitive species, Paddle smiled. Below them, the first wave of human refugees was returning to their restored colonies on Titan and Europa. Earth itself remained scared, but terraforming projects were already underway, powered by Saturn's seemingly limitless energy. The Concordiate representatives are requesting another tour of the quantum core facilities, Chen said. Their scientists still can't quite believe what we achieved. Show them, Paddle replied. The more they understand about Project Prometheus, the less likely they are to consider resuming hostilities. The Concordiate Empire had survived, but changed. The loss of their fleet and the subsequent rebellions had forced them to accept a new reality. Their territory had shrunk to a third of its former size as subjugated species claimed independence. Those that remained within the empire did so by choice, under new laws that guaranteed autonomy and representation. We're ready to begin the signing ceremony, an aide announced. The main conference chamber had been transformed for the occasion. Representatives from former Concordiate worlds sat alongside delegates from newly independent systems and neutral species drawn by humanity's achievement. At the center of it all stood Saturn, visible through the vast windows, a constant reminder of what had made this moment possible. Supreme Counselor Vaxlith, now serving as first among equals rather than absolute ruler, rose to address the gathering. A year ago, we thought we understood the natural order of the galaxy. We were wrong. Humanity taught us that true strength lies not in domination, but in the ability to transform impossibility into reality. The Galactic Concordat was more than just a peace treaty. It established new principles for interstellar relations, technology sharing, and mutual defense. At its heart was the doctrine that no species would be allowed to subjugate another, a policy backed by the deterrent power of Project Prometheus. The quantum core is now fully integrated with Saturn's natural systems, Paddle reported during her presentation. We've begun adapting the technology for peaceful applications, energy production, terraforming, space-time manipulation for faster-than-light travel. The possibilities are endless. The gathered delegates murmured in excitement. Humanity had not hoarded their breakthrough technology. Instead, they had offered to share it under carefully negotiated terms, transforming former enemies into partners. There are still challenges ahead, Chen admitted privately to Patel after the ceremony. Not everyone is happy with the new order. The outer rim worlds are unstable, and some Concordiate hardliners are calling for rearmament. Let them try, Paddle replied, watching as another group of refugee ships docked at the newly constructed orbital habitats. We didn't just build a weapon. We proved that the impossible is just a problem waiting to be solved. That knowledge can't be unopened. In the depths of Saturn, the quantum core continued its steady pulse, now powering a network of spatial gateways that connected former enemy worlds in trade and cultural exchange. The planet that had been transformed into humanity's greatest weapon had become something even more powerful, a foundation for a new era of galactic civilization. We're receiving a transmission from the Earth Restoration Project, an aide reported. The first atmospheric processors are online. They estimate the planet will be habitable again within 5 years. Chen smiled. Humanity's first home will live again. And this time, we'll be ready to defend it. Not just with weapons, but with the connections we've built, the alliances we forged. And if new threats arise, Patil asked, though she already knew the answer. Then we'll do what we've always done, Chen replied. We'll imagine the impossible. And then we'll make it real. As the delegates dispersed to their ships, carrying with them treaties that would reshape galactic society, Saturn hung in space like a beacon. Its transformed nature was a reminder to all species that the universe held more possibilities than anyone had dreamed, and that humanity, once dismissed as primitives, had been the ones to prove it. The last of the refugee ships docked, bringing more humans home from their emergency shelters. They would rebuild, innovate, and continue pushing the boundaries of what was possible. But they would do so as part of something larger now. A galactic community born from the moment when humanity had refused to accept extinction as their fate. In the end, they had done more than survive. They had changed the very nature of civilization among the stars, proving that the greatest power lay not in conquest, but in the ability to transform reality itself. Saturn pulsed once more, its light reaching across the solar system and beyond. No longer a warning, but a promise of what was possible when determination met innovation, when survival demanded revolution, and when humanity dared to dream beyond the stars themselves.